Join me today to learn how to enable yourself to be a deserved one in your respective field. Let's get on to the video. Everybody, when they start their career, they desire to be a leader or to be a CEO or to be a top class player, so on and so forth, based on the nature of field you choose. Then what happens? It's like a New Year resolution. It stays there for a day or two or for a shorter period of time, and the interest drops down or the disturbance overwhelms you, so you stop whatever you want to pursue. Here, the desire is just like a dream. Once you wake up, the dream goes off. The same way, once a disturbance comes, the dream goes off. Your desire fades away. I'll tell you one simple story. One guy wanted to become a monk. So, what he did was he went to a guru and said, I want to become a monk. And he tested whether this guy has got the qualification, etc. Okay, he was absolutely fine with his desire. So, he decided to take him as his disciple, and he chose to give a cottage or a hut to him, and you be there and you practice whatever I'm saying, and I will meet you after a time, after some time. So this young monk is supposed to wear nothing except a simple loin cloth, and he is supposed to have a very rigid food habit and a sleeping habit, and so on and so forth, including all the procedures of the described by the monk. So, what happened in the process is that since he has got a very less cloth, just a loin cloth. So, what happened was that there was a rat in that place where he used to stay, and it's just a story, okay? So, that started nibbling or biting its at the cloth, and it is taking away. So, every time what happens is that this young monk who has just become a monk, he find out. I mean, he rather thought that this rat is creating a lot of disturbance, and I have to walk so much distance to get that cloth back. So this is how the turn of event starts. So he decided that he wanted to buy a cat to ensure that the rat doesn't disturb that. So he bought that cat, and the cat was there in the hut. Then what happens is that the cat needs to be fed, so it requires a milk. So somebody has to pour the milk. So again, milk is a problem. So he had to buy a cow. So he bought a cow to feed cat with milk. Then what happened is that the cow needed a green pasture, so he bought a land. So that land he fulfilled with all the green pastures, like all those things. So what happened is that somebody has to manage that green pasture. Okay. So then he had to hire somebody. Then that guy needed a small house or something. Then the story goes on like that. After some time, he had built a beautiful house and where he is residing. That's the story about it. So after some time, the monk comes back and he was astonished to see, okay, you are my disciple and I asked you to do all these things, but you are living in a palatial place and with all those things. What happened to you? Then he realized that, okay, he had the desire to be monk, but in the pursuit of that, he completely lost balance. He doesn't do anything which deserves him to be a monk. So here, this is where the catch is. So you will have a lot of disturbance, a lot of external inputs, a lot of these things that will detract you from achieving your goal. So here there is another catch. Even in this case, when you have become a monk, assume you have become a monk, then you need to be pursuing that. That requires a perseverance. That perseverance is only possible under certain conditions. Let's get on to those things now. First, you need to learn what it takes to. That we discussed in the last video or sometime back we discussed. So you need to know what it takes to become either professional or a monk, as in this example, or whatever you want to become. Once you do that, then you need to acquire the knowledge. That's the first point. So once you acquire the knowledge, then only the rest of the things will happen. For example, now you look at how to eat, okay, or what to eat, when to eat. If you Google that, you will get millions of videos on how to eat, what to eat. Somebody will say you have to eat like this, you need to have a fasting, you need to have an intermittent fasting. If you are having this kind of a problem, what to eat. So finally, if you have to go through all the videos, then start eating, then you will be starving forever, okay. So that is not possible at all, because each one will give you different idea about eating in terms of what to eat, when to eat, what should be your eating habit, what is the frequency, how much calories you have to eat, how much weight of food you have to eat, and so on and so forth. So what happens is that you don't know which is correct. So you don't know your state of mind, and you start receiving all these kind of millions of input on how to eat, but you will continue to eat in the way you want it, okay, or your mind tells you to drive you rather to eat. So you will go along that direction. Then what happens is that you lose that focus on what you would like to become, okay. So here there is a simple technique, okay. You can try to adopt this way. You have a 2 by 2 column matrix, okay. On one side you can have whether the knowledge is correct or it is incorrect, and the other one is whether it is required or not required. So let's say that the knowledge is correct, you got the right input, and that is required. Then you need to pursue, practice, preserve, and go along that direction. Assume that knowledge is correct, but you don't require. Say for example, how to wear a tie, or how to wear a suit or a blazer. That is correct. So somebody taught you or you learned it correctly. So the knowledge is correct, but you may not require it all the time in a day. So you can postpone what is not required now. On the other hand, if the knowledge is not correct, it is incorrect information and it is required, you need that, but you do not know whether it is correct or incorrect, or you have a doubt, or you know for sure it is incorrect, okay. So then what happens is that, or what should happen rather, is that you try to learn what is the correct way of getting that knowledge, or what is that correct knowledge which will help you to go or achieve your desired level. On the other hand, if the knowledge is not correct and it is not required, then you can just delete or forego that piece of thing which is not required, at least at that point in time. So that is basically a noise in your pursuit. So knowledge comes the first. Then what is that helps you to achieve? The next in the order is practice. So having a knowledge is as important as how much you are practicing with that. Practicing here in this context, you may have to put it into use. So, for example, you learned quite a lot of things about how to send a rocket to a moon from your native place. That knowledge is good, but you cannot practice. So, if you want to become an astronaut or a space engineer, for example, then you need to practice that. Even if you take the example of cycling, you know how to ride a bicycle or drive a car, let's say. But just know having that knowledge alone is not sufficient. You need to practice that. When you practice, again you have to apply that logic whether you are practicing it correctly or practicing it wrongly. Okay. So once you have the knowledge, once you have the practice, the obviously what it will lead to is your talent. The talent comes mostly by default. You don't need to strive for a talent. The moment you have a knowledge, the moment you have the practice or a perseverance, and you are able to retain that kind of a knowledge in practice, in putting it into an application, in putting it into use, then that helps you to acquire the skill, and then you become a talented person on that field. If you don't do that, what will happen is that you have the knowledge, you know how to drive, or you know how to ride a car, ride a cycle, but you may be not having enough confidence when you are on road, for example. So you have to practice. So again, it is while you are trying to practice on road, for example, it again requires the knowledge. So it is a continuous loop, or in a continuum. You need to know this is, you can simply remember this as KPT. Knowledge, that's the first one, which is a K, capital K. Second is P, which is slightly smaller in that sense, and is a practice. Third one is the talent, which comes by pursuing this knowledge and practice. For example, if you are a mechanical engineer, let's say, or a computer professional, or even accounting or any professional, you won't get the knowledge unless you ask for it. Okay, so the simple way is that you see the world, right? You see how something works in real world. So you see, how a plane flies, for example, how a wheel rotates, or what happens when you close the door or opens the door, how the hinges work, or something which you can see correlate to your field of interest, and then start imagining, because everything cannot be taught in a classroom, or for that matter in an office environment, where you can't be, somebody need not be shouldering with you to teach you how to do that. Don't expect that, because in the office you are expected to work, and in the process you may have to learn. So if somebody says that you can learn for 3 months and 6 months and then come back, then it is completely a different subject. So nobody will have that kind of time and patience to help you learn while you are paid. Okay, so you have to learn. So the best way to start here is that whatever you see, suppose you are a programmer, you can identify some logic, whatever you see, start writing in your own comfortable language which you are familiar with. Or if you are a mechanical engineer, you can see how things work. There are a lot of sites which will help you know how stuff works. Okay, for example, okay, you can learn and you can even practice. So thereby you can improve your knowledge or practice, and then talent, which will again feed back to your work or your desire. This is the only way by which you can become a deserved one. Otherwise, what will happen is that you will desire, you will theoretically think that no, all these things are knowledge, you will theoretically practice all in a dream, and talent will also be in a dream. And when you wake up, what happens is that you are supposed to drive a car on the road, or you have to write some program on in your office, or you may have to do, if you are a mechanical engineer, maybe you have to work with a machine where the safety is important. You will lose concentration, you will get into some accidents. So to be a deserving one, or even for that matter you want to get a promotion in your office, so they will have a kind of eligibility criteria. Not only eligibility, and it is a positive criteria and a negative criteria. So you have to not only fulfill all the positive criteria, and you have to ensure that you don't qualify in the negative criteria, so that you don't have you are scoring on both sides in that sense. Okay, in a correct way, so you become an eligible, or you become a deserving candidate for that kind of a promotion. So from that perspective, you need to be very clear that this is possible only if you decide, you deliberately you decide. That is the only way to begin how to be a deserving one. Okay, so you need to deliberately take a decision to acquire knowledge. It is, see, even if your eyes see something on the road, unless your brain captures that and gets into vogue within your body, within your mind, and in practice, that won't be considered as a knowledge. You just see something and reflect it back, leave it. Okay, so what happens is that you need to have a intention, okay, intent to learn knowledge that is required and that is correct. There are so many inputs coming to you from multiple channels, like it may be from your college or school, it may be from your parents, from your society, from your colleagues, from your working environment, from friends, families, and from social media, in different ways. But you need to be absolutely sure what is that which is right, that right in the sense which is absolutely right, as well as it is right for you and is authentic enough, so that you be a deserved one in your respective field. So to summarize, three things. One, the knowledge, you need to acquire the knowledge. Second, practice it. Third, you become a talented one in that field. This is possible only if you decide to have a deliberate decision that you are in pursuit of these three in that order. That is important. Best wishes. See you in the next video. Thank you.